Let's go. Just found the first shed of 2023. It's an old one buried in the grass here. This is like a city suburb area. And the city just owns some of this, and there's tons of deer in here. And I've been walking some of these areas after work early in the season like this. These are brand new spots I've never been to. I had a good feeling about this spot as soon as I got down in here. This isn't as good as some of the areas I've been, but I just jumped up like 7 does when I just got down in here. I'm kind of just heading out right now. It's getting closer to dark. We just got, you know, a lot of rain yesterday. Rained on and off the whole day. And I was coming up like this. I was just gonna like go out that way. Coming up like this, and I saw it from right about here. There's 2 little tines sticking up. That's awesome. I'll get a few pictures of this and I'll pick it up. Okay, here we go. That's what I thought it was, just a nice, decent 4-side. That's honestly, it's hard to tell. It's getting dark out, but it's definitely a year old, maybe even 2. I don't know. I know it's a little early yet, but I'm just kind of walking, you know, brand new spots, a lot of these city suburb areas, and gonna probably hit some of the better spots again. Like this spot I'll probably be back to eventually, maybe even tomorrow night. So that's a pretty decent shed to start the year out with. So hopefully I can find some more this week. I'll be out a few more times around here, so awesome. No way. Just found the first fresh shed of 2023, and look at where I am. Right in the backyard here. Literally 2 years ago, I found a fresh 4-point like right there, right on the edge of the corn. And that, like last year, that section of corn was beans, but 2 years ago, that was corn also. I've just been rotating it. The shed's right there. I knew it was just a matter of time because, you know, I've been checking cameras down here and shining them from the house. The last week, we've had multiple bucks drop, and I've been down here every other night or every other 2 days or so. I just did the update of my corn and soybeans. That video is probably already out, of the backyard food plot update yesterday. And I just walked around the same area I'm walking, and this shed was not here. I just remember walking right through here and showing these soybeans yesterday in the update video, and I was, you know, just walking up along this corn here, and it's right here. Pretty much the majority of the soybeans down there are almost all gone. A lot of the corn down there is gone. The only food in our backyard that's left is this corn, this section of beans right here, and a little bit of beans in between these trees. And just a little 1.5-year-old. It had to, oh yeah, look at that. I don't know if you can see how bloody that is. I'm gonna get a picture here. It had to have dropped last night because, like I said, I was just right in here yesterday. You can see that. That's just super cool. I remember taking a picture just like this with the shed and the house in frame 2 years ago, like right there. And yet, here's another one, almost 10 yards away. And that is the buck I thought had a chance of dropping. He was holding this one side the last couple nights when he was over here. The other side dropped first, and he was a half-rack buck holding this side for multiple nights. And I got lucky and he finally dropped it over here. I don't find many sheds in the food plots, or even, you know, right next to them like this. Usually they're in bedding areas and stuff. I got permission to walk some of the private land, some of the properties that way from where they're coming from, but I usually don't do that good over there anyway, so I don't know exactly how far these deer are really coming from. But if I could just get them to bed down over here at night, that just increases the chances too of finding sheds. But a lot of times they just come and they go. I don't think all the bucks really bed down the whole night over here. I think they're only over here a couple hours. So that kind of limits my chances of finding something when they're only over here a short while. So yeah, he was holding, like I said, he was holding this side for probably like the last 3 days. And yeah, that's pretty sweet. He's one of the bucks that just moved into the area, because some of these bucks in the backyard here I've been getting pictures of since like November and December. And then, you know, later in December when we started getting that snow, they became pretty regular. But then this buck and another spike and another half rack eight pointer and a little bit bigger, but I mean there was a couple other ones that just showed up here just recently and in middle of January and late January, and he's one of them. Sweet. Absolutely crazy. Just found a match set right on one of our ATV trails. Just heading right up to the food plot here to check a camera. I plan on going to a public land today and walking most of the afternoon there at a spot that I did pretty good last year, early in February like this. I didn't really expect to just walk up on a little match set. This is pretty sweet. Our 1 acre food plot's right out there. It's mainly all soybeans. This year I got a little corner of brassica up there. The box blind is right there. Anyways, last weekend there was a ton of tracks out here. This snow's been on the ground for a couple days now, and there isn't a ton of tracks. A few turkey tracks here, a few deer tracks. Just walking up like this, boom, boom. Those were not there a week ago when I was last out here. That's so cool. You know, I've been shed hunting out here for many, many years. Probably like, I don't even know, probably since about like 2016, 2017. And that is the second ever match set I have found in this area. And I shed hunt multiple areas around here. And anyways, the first sheds we ever found on the property was a match set about 100, maybe 200 yards that way at the other end of that field. And that was before I even shed hunted. That was December 2015. And I was literally stepping right on top of them. And my dad said, "Hey, aren't you going to pick those up?" And we were just cutting some brush along one of the line fences there, cleaning up a spot. And that is basically what got me into shed hunting. Prior to that, you know, that was at the time when I was just starting to get into hunting, and I didn't really know a lot. And I didn't even know that deer dropped their antlers every year. That's how naive I was just, you know, 5 to 6, 7 years ago now. And then when I found that the deer dropped their antlers like that, I was like, hey, I'm going to go out this spring and find a couple. And I did find a couple that spring. And then ever since then, I've, you know, just been addicted to it. But isn't it just weird how certain properties over at my dad's uncle's, I found at least 2 side-by-side sets, an old set and a fresh set. Every year I find at least 1 side-by-side set out there. And one year we found, I think, 2 or 3 as well, like 2 side-by-side sets for sure. But over the same period of time, I've probably found, I'd have to say 5 or 6 side-by-side sets. Nothing huge, a lot of small stuff like this. One really nice side-by-side set that my cousin Cole found, but over here in the same amount of time I've only found 2 side-by-side sets ever. So I think it's just genetic. Certain deer are more prone to dropping both at the same time. He might have just been walking through here, he might have been sparring with another buck, because I know a lot of times when I run cameras in the winter like this, you'd be amazed how many bucks are still sparring and just kind of pushing each other around. Nothing aggressive, but just, you know, kind of playful fighting. Anyways, let's pick these. Let me get a picture quick and I'll pick them up. Okay. All right, here we go. I can't really say I recognize this buck. I know I've gotten many 1.5-year-old bucks like this on camera here this year. I actually added it up about a month ago. I've gotten from September, from when I started running cameras until you know, probably like late January, I've gotten pictures of, it was pretty darn close to 50 different bucks here. Now some of them, you know, were only here in September, October, and then moved away for the rut and were either shot or never came back. Some of them was only in the area in September. Some of them only showed up in late October, were here for the rut, and by gun season they were gone. They were either shot or moved somewhere else. And some of the bucks just showed up here in December, and some of them have just showed up in January. So not too many just showed up. Last year I had more bucks show up in January, so there must be more food somewhere else. And I'd say our food plots are getting hit pretty hard, but not quite as hard as last year maybe. But this is obviously one of them. I'm sure I have pictures of this buck, but it's just not really jumping out at me. That's pretty cool. This is crazy. I literally just stopped here to take a piss, and I look up and I find a pretty decent looking shed. So maybe I need to slow down a little bit, because with this sun glare today, it's making it really hard. But thankfully there's not that much snow over here. I'm pretty close to where I found my first fresh shed last year. I found two here that day. One of them was literally just a couple hundred yards up that way. I'm kind of circling that direction right now. Just pounded deer trails in here. And I look up right there, and thankfully the sun was shining on it a little bit. If it was completely in the shadows, I probably would have missed it. It's hard to say what it looks like from here, if it's fresh or old. Oh man, that's chewed up and it's big. Wow, that's really cool. That is an old shed. I was thinking it, well, let's see here. It's pretty muddy, but yeah, that's got to be a year old. That's a good sign. I mean, I already saw one set of boot tracks in here, and there's not a whole lot of snow to really go off of, so I'm sure some other people have already walked through here. It looks like, you know, the water came up and this thing was underwater for a little bit. I'm gonna get a picture of that. Dang, I should have found that last year. That's bigger than anything we found in here last year. All right, let's pick her up. Wait a second. I might have this deer's other side. It's hard to tell. I haven't held that other shed for a while. That was the one I found about 200 yards that direction. And it would be the right side. This is the left side. It could be that buck, but I'm not 100% sure. I doubt it, because the side I found was just a big heavy 4-point. This is a typical 5 with a little non-typical point, probably a split there in the G2. It looks like it's kind of splayed out a little bit, but man, that made today worth it. This place is pretty far from home, pretty close to an hour from home here, so glad I came up with something. I was hoping to find something fresh in here, but hey, this is better than those 2 little ones I found this morning. Especially if that's the other side. I'll make sure when I get home and see if that's the other side. Just cleaned it up a little bit right here in this water. Looks a little better now. I was looking at my Onyx tracker. The closest I got to this shed last year was about maybe like 75 yards that direction. So obviously I didn't walk like close to it, but it would have been nice to find it last year. I'm surprised it sat here for a whole year. This is just a super weird spot next to this little slough right here. There was heavy deer trails, maybe 20 to 40 yards that way. And, oh, actually there was that one heavy one right there, like maybe 15 yards that way. But I'm sure someone had to have walked down at least 1 or 2 of these trails, but that just goes to show another shed not on a deer trail. If this was on a deer trail, you know, it'd be gone last year. But most of the sheds I find are not on deer trails. They're just kind of, you know, off to the side, random spots. Once in a while, you do find an easy one on a trail, but the majority aren't. So, pretty cool. So right here on the left, this is the shed I found. I looked on the maps. It was only about 100 yards from the one I found today. I really do think it's him. Even though it doesn't really, you know, that's just a typical 4-point side. This is a 5-point side with a little extra stuff there. Look at the brow tines. See how they're tipped in like that? Look at this one. So it's tipped in like that. And then you look at the bases. They're the exact same size, maybe not quite the exact shape. This one's a little bit more round. But the brow tines being the same, the location being the same, the pretty much overall size other than the points being the same. And when you hold it in your hand, the mass is the same. And just the way the beam wraps and curls is exactly the same. When you hold on to it, it really feels the same in your hand. So I'm thinking that's definitely a match. That's pretty crazy that I was able to match this deer up a year apart. Pretty unlikely, but anyways, pretty lucky. So thanks for watching. There'll be more shed hunting videos coming this year, obviously.